Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And this is the show for trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. The interesting, well, first of all, been playing around with technology, so I'm a little late this morning. Sorry about that, but shouldn't happen again. Well, who knows? Me and technology, you never can tell. So, the, well, okay. As I keep telling you, I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist in private practice, and I have 40 years or so of treating ADHD. Parents, adults, children, pretty much you name it. I've probably seen it, and I I'm getting signals from the side. I'm not sure what they mean, but we'll just mush on and hope we don't miss too much till when we get to the end. Anyway, so I am also the parent of an ADHDer. And back in the day when we were young parents of young children, there wasn't a whole lot we knew about ADHD. It just wasn't available. The information was not there. And even in spite of the fact that I was a psychologist, it was hard to find out anything. I had friends who were pediatric psychologists. They had spent a year or two of their lives in specialty training about pediatrics, and they didn't know anything about it. Matter of fact, one of the worst evaluations I ever had done was by what these guys. But anyway, that's not to besmirch them. It was just we didn't know very much back in the day, and now we know a lot more. I'm not going to say we know everything to be totally satisfied and all that sort of thing, but we know a good bit. And the big deal, I think, is that we have effective treatment methods. And, there are all sorts of accommodations and changes you can get that make life easier if you have ADHD. But like back in the day, we just didn't know. We didn't have a clue what we were dealing with. That's why I also say that I freely admit that I made pretty much every mistake you can make with an ADHDer. You look at ADHD. I mean, probably the biggest problem ADHDers have is you look at them and it doesn't look like anything's different. But they act like sometimes like a character, what we call a character behavior disorder, or oppositional defiant disorder kind of thing, and that's not really what's going on. And I don't know, maybe if they had one blue ear or something, we'd say, oh, well, yeah, okay, now I understand. But we don't, and we never will, probably, hopefully. But the idea was that it was hard to tell that there was such a thing as ADHD going on in this kid because it just looks like a behavior problem. So that confuses everybody, teachers, parents, relatives. It just looks like he or she's an ornery little knucklehead. Hello, Maggie Montgomery. Thank you for watching. Anyway, and the big deal I would make is that therefore a lot of opportunities are missed, and a lot of the reminders that let you know, oh, I need to be careful with this because this is a neurologic condition. It's not a behavior problem, and I need to react a little differently. And that's hard for parents to do. That's hard for psychologists to do. That's not your that's not what naturally happens. Boom, somebody's adrenaline glands are in an uproar. Yours start to get into an uproar. It's the way we're kind of triggered and linked together, whether we like it or not. But the big thing for me, I mean, there were times when I feel like I was too much a disciplinarian and didn't exactly understand what was going on, because that's one of the things. A lot of times when your ADHD child, has like blow-ups or gets real emotional, it's because they're afraid. It's because they've been asked to do something they don't think they can do, and we don't give them an out, really. There's no way to push the button and say, I think because of my ADHD, I will have difficulties with this task. There is no button like that. It would be real helpful to us poor parents if there were a button like that, but there isn't. So you get the notion that well, you're never sure if you're doing right, and you think, it depends, but different folks have different ways of being wrong in terms of parenting ADHD kids. There are some who are a little more prone to be strict disciplinarians and cause difficulties that way, and there are other folks who are just marshmallows and give the kid whatever they want because they're upset, and that doesn't work out really well either. Neither one of those extremes are very good. So we go without adequate. Well, we used to go without adequate information and without exactly knowing, situation by situation, what was wrong, and that's okay. But I think the biggest deal is, and then this is back in the day, when I was a young parent, and I didn't know that we had some rights because of the condition, because of the diagnosis. I didn't know that was, I didn't know there was a federal law covering that situation, and that the schools had certain obligations and responsibilities. And, that, I think, I look back on it, that's probably the thing I regret most, is that I didn't know when to stand up and say, whoa, you guys can't do this. I just sort of, oh, well, whatever you think, if that's, And that's not really my nature, but that's the way things worked out. When I've got this kid, I don't know exactly what's going on, and we're having troubles, and I'm not exactly sure what is causing them, or that sort of thing. I can tell you a number of stories, but one time my young fella there got into trouble at school, and what had happened was that they're trying to, in a lot of school systems, they're trying to stream kids with disabilities in with kids who don't have disabilities. Okay, and this one, I think it was a little girl with we'll just call it an intellectual deficit. How's that? And she was being teased by a couple of the bullies in training on the playground. And my young man went to her defense and got into trouble for fighting. And then the teacher who was supervising grabbed him, and I think it was just him, and took him to the principal's office and told the story from her point of view, that he'd started a fight with these two kids, and he had, instead of saying, that's not quite the way it was, or something diplomatic like that, he said, she's a liar. And he got suspended. The bullies got away with nothing. So I still remember not standing up, and I still think I should have. And I think, you have a hard time as a parent. You're not there at school particularly, and you're not exactly sure what's going on. You're not sure who to believe, and so sometimes you don't stand up the way perhaps you should or could. And that's one situation where I didn't do anything. Just take your medicine, son, and go get back to it later. As I look back on it, that probably wasn't the way to do it. That probably wasn't what was right. And I think the biggest problem ADHD kids have growing up is that the system doesn't really react very kindly to them. We are increasingly in a system, school, pretty much everything is compliance based. Okay, way more than it was when I was a kid in school. They're do your work, get started on time, finish on time, turn it in on time, da 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 da, and that counts in some classes. And I'm amazed at this, but this is with patients I've had. Their teachers are grading 50% of the grade based on just stupid compliance stuff, just that they're obedient. I find that just horrifying, frankly, because we already have too many obedient people in the world, as the current world situation is showing. Anyway, not to get off on a diatribe, but it's just, this is not the way it was supposed to be. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't think the education system ever was what I hoped it would be. I thought it was all about freeing minds and opening people up to the possibilities and all that sort of stuff. And I read all these things that say, no, the only reason we have public education is to train people for the workplace, to train people to read the manual and be able to get on an assembly line and do the job, or sit in a cubicle all day, that sort of stuff. I find that terrifying. My goodness. And that's why I always say at the end of these shows, people who think outside the box are the only people who ever change the world. People who think inside the box just go along to get along. And that works, that works to maintain things, but it doesn't work to change things. And things will not get better if we just go with compliance-based thinking. We have to have the folks who challenge things. Say, wait a minute, we could do it this way and it'd be faster and easier. And more efficient. Well, just on and on. So, the times I really feel, as a parent, that I most let my young man down was, about standing up. Sure, he shouldn't have called the teacher a liar, but she should have made sure she knew what was going on in the situation. And she never will. She'll go to her grave thinking she did what was right. We have entirely too many people in the world that are spare the rod and spoil the child types. That's not going to work with an ADHD child. Too much rod and you're going to spoil the child, and that's kind of where we are right now. And I am, obviously in a grumpy mood today, but fighting it out with technology frequently does that to me. I like machines that work like machines and do what I want them to do, and when they start doing something I don't expect, I have a little trouble catching up to them, okay? And that definitely was what my morning has been like. I have some news. I have been teasing you with this for a few weeks, but I have finally got some things up on my website. I've got a I have a Facebook ad. Some of you may have seen that floating around in the last. Actually, I didn't activate it until yesterday sometime. But that's been no. Actually, I think it was today or Saturday. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's yesterday. Okay. Boop. Anyway, so that directs you to a page off of my website, and what I was having trouble fighting with is doing a lower third, so y'all could get the address easily. I'm going to give it to you orally and hope for the best. But the URL is terrygingrassphd.com/ADHD dash numeral 6 dash steps. Let me do that again. terrygingrassphd.com/ADHD dash 6 dash steps. And that will get you to a landing page that'll get you so you can do a download, which I think is a pretty valuable little checklist, and it kind of gives you some things you can do as an ADHD parent to try to get the information you need and emphasize some of the points I'm trying to make here when you're dealing with your ADHD child. So I am going to figure it out later. Well, hello, Heather. Thank you for watching. And like I said, I will try to figure out this technology in the next week so that next week I can give you a solid lower third read of this stuff. Anyway, so in the interim, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass. This is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, and we're the show trying to make the world safe for ADHD, because ADHDers are outside the box thinkers, and outside the box thinkers are the only people who change the world. A regular, old, compliant thinker does not change much of anything. So who knows, your child may be the one that's going to change a whole bunch of stuff and solve some of the world's biggest problems. May survive, decide how to, or figure out how to clean up the environment, or may figure out how to develop a battery that'll let you drive 600 miles before it needs recharging. Who knows? But there are a lot of problems out there, and hopefully one of you has the child that's going to try to solve them. Okay, and like I said, my website is terrygingrassphd.com, and we have all places that are underneath this where you can leave messages, ask questions, that sort of thing. I invite you to try to let me know what you think or what you'd like to hear, or and so on. And please write. Please make contact. And I promise next week we'll be much more organized and relaxed. Okay. See you next time.